You punks, go on my pub! Me and my friends in $100 Volvo, buzzing down the street while cruising on the road, getting fucked up on the 101, shooting our guns and having fun. 40 beers later and a line of speed, 8-ball blow and a half a pound of weed, headed down the tracks to Mexico, fucked on beer and stay and go. I drink cheap beer, so what fuck you? I drink cheap beer, so what fuck you?
Hello, this is the Punks in Pubs podcast, and my name is Liam Bird, and I hope you're all well and have a smile on your face. If you don't, I'm sorry. What's up? Do you want to have a chat? Or why not call that person that you've been meaning to call for a long time? I think his name's Michael. Is it Michael? I don't know. Whoever his name is, or her name is, go give him a call. They might put a smile on your face. Or go watch Big Mouth on Netflix. You do you. Has anyone actually seen Big Mouth on Netflix? If you haven't, fuck me, it's good. It is so smart. It is one of the best adult cartoons in the world. And that's right. I am a 35-year-old man still watching adult cartoons. Get over it. Anyway, you haven't dug out this podcast from literally millions of other podcasts to listen to me talk about Netflix recommendations. There are literally millions of other podcasts that do that. But if you do want to hear me talk about Netflix recommendations, hit me up on Twitter. I'll hit you with my top 5 Netflix things. I won't. You are here to listen to episode 25. And who is on episode 25? I hear you shout. Well, you impatient fuck. Episode 25 is me in a brewery in Leighton, East London. That's right. A brewery. Go big or go home, kids. I was at the Signature Brew Brewery, try saying that when you're pissed, where I was talking to one of the founders, Sam McGregor, the other being Tom Bott. For some reason, I found that name hilarious at the time, which you will find out in the interview. I don't know why, Tom. I apologize in advance. Your name's not that silly. Tom Bott, it's fine. Why did I go to Leighton to talk to Signature Brew? What have they got to do with punk, I hear you murmur? Well, Signature Brew is not only ran by a lovely group of people who happen to love punk and ska, it also has a real punk ethos in its core, as you will hear in the podcast when we're talking about zines and music and branding and marketing. The brewery also plays its part in supplying and creating beer for some of the biggest and best punk festivals up and down the UK, like SlamDunk, Manchester Punk Festival, as well as Art Tan Gent and 2000 Trees. But it's probably best known for creating collaborated beers with artists that we would consider punks, like Frank Turner, the Skints, the Holsteady, Slaves, Millencolin, Mastodon, Heck, and Enter Shikari. So what can you expect from our chit chat? Well, you will quickly discover that I know fuck all about beer, and unsurprisingly, Sam knows a lot. We discuss cracking open warm breakfast beers at festival, and also how the US beer Sierra Nevada was a game changer for Sam. We also talk about a brewery that tried to copyright the word punk, BrewDog. We talk about the good and the bad. We don't just talk about beer, we also discover Sam's other love apart from beer, ska music, as well as the role of a trumpet player in a ska band, a role that is close to Sam's heart. Lastly, we talk about punk bands that have already played a part in what Signature Brew have done in their collaborative roles and how much input these bands actually have in creating their beer. I also asked Sam what other bands he would like to work with in 2019. You'll also hear me make up completely new words because I'm a grammar clown. Stick around after the chat because I will also explain to you how you can actively get involved with the rise of Signature Brew in the future, apart from just keep buying their beer. As always, your band plays out the podcast, and this week's band are hailing from San Diego, California, and they are called Watashi wa Dance Party. But before that, there is this. People of the world, I present to you episode 25 of Punks in Pubs with Signature Brew's Sam McGregor. Talk to you in a bit.
There was a bear there, all black and brown and covered in hair. 3 boys a goat and a dancing bear. They danced and spun right through the fair. How sweet she was and pure and fair.
normally, whenever we do this interview, we're either in a cafe, bar, backstage, but I've never done one in a brewery, and today we are in a brewery. So if you hear the humming and clanging and of a working brewery, that is because we are at Signature Brewery. In front of me is Sam McGregor.
Hello.
How you doing, Sam?
Yeah, good.
Can I just ask you to pull the mic? There you go.
A bit better like that.
Yeah, sorry, man. I was actually standing on your mic as well.
No worries.
This is a first for me, doing one in a brewery. We did one in a bottle bar, Ghost Whale.
Oh, yeah, no.
That
That place is great.
Yeah, and they had some of your beers, I think, on
Alex?
display. Yeah, it's Alex from Holy Raw.
Good place, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice place. So that's probably the closest I've been to a brewery. It's not a brewery, it's a bottle bar. But
Do you mean, are you a big drinker? Or do you like your beers?
Dangerous drinking. See, I'm not good with names. So if someone said, "Oh, can I get you a beer?" I'll be like, "Yeah, just get me." I'll go like an IPA or something like that.
Yeah.
But if someone was like, "Oh, what kind of IPA?" I'm done. Like
Right,
that point, I get a bit confused, and I'm like, "A nice one."
Okay.
To answer your question, no. Really?
Right, okay. You just like what you like.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Like there's certain beers I'm enjoying at the moment, but I wouldn't say like I wouldn't put myself in the league of like Alex. Well,
Right.
he's obviously so passionate about it. He's opened up his own beer place. Obviously, you're so passionate about it. You've opened up your own brewery. So we'll talk about that in a sec. I wanted to kind of talk about how. Actually, no. Let's do the backstory first, because then people
Okay.
get a better understanding. So, how did Signature Brew start then?
Okay, so I set Signature Brew up in 2011, just because I was not satisfied, and I was annoyed. And are we allowed to swear? Am I going to swear?
Fuck him, man.
I just got sick of drinking shit beer, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, everywhere I went, I used to be in a band, and I was a tour manager for a while, and hired out vans. I did all these, and then eventually got like a normal sort of 9-to-5 music industry job, doing digital marketing. And everywhere I went, there was just shit beer everywhere. And even where you'd go to places where there'd be bands who had infinity amounts of fancy spirits or champagne or whatever, the beer would always be shit. And that's something that's still a big problem today.
But what is shit beer?
For me, like, I think people kind of paint broad strokes and say, okay, macro, mass-produced industrial beer is shit, and some breweries make that their byline. And I think that's on the whole is pretty accurate, but also it's about choice, and being forced to drink a terrible beer that you don't like is also bad. So you go to a big venue, a music festival, and you're being forced to drink something that you probably wouldn't normally buy for probably an inflated price. And I think that's as much of part of the problem for me as the actual quality of the beer.
But most people just bitch about it, not start their own brewery.
Yeah. I mean, we just had the idea to start how can we fix this problem was the problem. And we were like, what can we do about it? So we got together with some bands, and we're like, well, let's make some beers with some bands.
Have you ever done beer before? Like, you ever homebrewed or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd done a little bit of homebrewing, and I was passionate about beer before, and I knew more. I'm not as much now as I do now, but I was still into beer at the time, and that's obviously why I was frustrated. And anyone who even likes anything beyond a Tuborg, Red Stripe, anything of that kind of entry level, not very great flavourful beer, knows that's not all that's available. So, but yeah, I set the company up with my cousin, who he was trained in a brewery as a brewer. His name's Tom Bott, and
his name's Tom Bott.
Tom Bott, yeah.
Tom Bott.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes forget that it can be funny. His best friend's called Sam Cock. just a weird thing of life. But yeah, got together with him, and we set the company up together, and yeah, we just sort of thought, well, let's make some beers with some bands. I knew some bands, and that's where it kind of started from, really. And that was the first couple of years. We just went from band to band, from artist to artist, making beers for them, getting them into their venue, getting them into their tours, where they're playing, getting them out to their fans. And we were like, well, yeah, we're solving the problem. You can go to a music venue now and you can have this nice pale ale or this IPA or this, interesting new style lager, whatever it was at the time. And they had Signature Brew on the tops of the bottles.
Yeah.
But what was happening was we weren't really gaining any momentum for what Signature Brew was, which was, bringing great beer and music together. So after we'd been doing that so we did that for a year. So it kind of took off. We quit our jobs, went full time with it, then we did it a bit more, kind of just doing artist collaboration beers. And then we were like, we'll probably need to just have a core range of beers and start behaving a bit more like a normal brewery.
Yeah.
We also, probably worth saying, we didn't have a brewery at all at the beginning. So we were brewing at other people's places. We were going around borrowing people's equipment, letting people, blagging people to let us make beer at their places, all kind of different sizes.
So who was allowing you to use their breweries then?
So we worked, I think it's probably up to about 10 over the years, different breweries.
Oh, really?
And all kinds of different sizes as well. So
so you would rent?
Yeah, kind of. It's called Cuckoo Brewing.
Okay.
Gypsy Brewing is also sometimes what it's called. And yeah, you go into a place and you use all their equipment and use their spare capacity to create beers yourself, and then you just kind of buy the whole lot and then you can sell them. And we had various different arrangements going on. It was kind of complicated, but we launched the core range in 2013, 2014. And then after that started to continue to sort of grow and take off a bit more, and we were like, right, we need our own brewery.
Yeah.
So in end of 2014, start 2015, we did some crowdfunding, and we used that money to build this place here, and that now it's grown from one sort of unit into 3 over the last couple of years. It's grown from just me and Tom to now there's 15 people who work here, and yeah, we're making more beer than ever, and yeah, we're still trying to grow. So
that step of going from this is just a hobby essentially, because this is something that we want to do, and then making that step of holy shit, now this is our job, and now we've employed people, and if this goes wrong, like, people are now out of a job. Like, making that step must be a bit weird. I know you come from a world of music, so it's kind of like a band quitting their job and going full time and hiring roadies and hiring crew. Like, it must be quite surreal, because I don't think there's many people who make that jump of I've got a safety net of a 9-to-5 job, but now I'm going it alone. Like, what worries were in your head at the time? Have there been a point where you've gone, we've taken on too much, what the fuck have we done?
I think I always thought there'd be this big moment of like, oh yeah, we've done it. We've gone full time, and it was kind of gradual in a weird way. But what were the worries? Yeah, the worries were that it wasn't going to work. And we did loads of stuff that we didn't have big backing. We didn't have any backing. I just had a couple of £1,000 that I'd saved up and just used that to buy one batch of beer basically at the beginning. So it was always very hand to mouth, and we made some stupid decisions. We did some loads of stuff that kind of, if we'd had it all pre-formed as it is now in our minds at the beginning, we wouldn't have made certain decisions.
Come on, you've got to give us at least one stupid decision.
We may, this is probably bad, isn't it, to put it on the internet or into the ether forever. Yeah, we made some beers for some people who we probably wouldn't have otherwise, like corporate-y things that didn't have our name on, but brands that we definitely wouldn't want to associate with, because it was okay money, and we were kind of in a position that we needed to do things like that.
So the brand would push your beer as their own?
No. We would make a beer for a corporate brand that they could just buy off us.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah. And I think we did like a wedding beer for somebody one time, and just stuff like that we just wouldn't do now. Yeah. Because it kind of fit into the brand, doesn't really make sense, but we're just doing it to make money. So, but yeah, I think that's one of the things that's quite difficult to see from a consumer point of view is which breweries have massive backing, because lots of people turn up to the party now. They've seen the craft beer be exploding over the last 5 years, and they've just turned up with shitloads of money and sweet, amazing breweries, and maybe not too many ideas about how to use them or even around a brand or whatever it should be. And I always think that, there's millions of parallels, and we could probably spend the whole day doing just music and beer parallels. But there's a band who one of my favourite bands who we made a beer with this year, a band called Lightyear.
Yep.
And there's a lyric in one of the songs that talks about like the bands that pay their way onto tours, that cheated themselves and cheated the floors that they never slept on. And it was like when I was in a shit ska band, there were bands who just pay on to tours. You know, so and so had big backing. And big bands were like, well, we can take a support band out with us for, you know, that we like, or we can just accept money. So we just get, you know what I mean? And it sometimes just feels like that. Like you're working really hard and you kind of just see people taking shortcuts. And yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't think people on the consumer end, on the drinker end, can tell.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating sometimes, you know. And it's, you know, I'll never under no illusions that anything's meant to be fair. But but yeah, it's and you know, and I'm sure I've had my fair share of helping hands and stuff like that too. So dangerous of being hypocritical, but yeah, I just sort of tailed off there. I guess I was trying to make a point.
No, because your point is valid. Like you said, there are people who do get a helping hand up, and it sounds like you guys have not. You guys have. You've put in your funding, and something that I think you've done well is, like you said, you knew people in the music industry, and you were smart enough to go, well, okay, my name probably is not big enough right now, but this other band's name is. So therefore, if we can work with them, we can contribute each other and move forward. So that's quite smart marketing and business, like from the off. Because who was the first band you worked with?
The first band we worked with was the Rifles.
The Rifles.
Yeah.
So is that the case that you were friends with them and you were like, hey, I've got this idea?
Yeah, I think I just got introduced to them because we were working with, I think it was their booking agent was working with a different band that I was working with at the time. And they were like, oh yeah, what, you know, we were trying to work with some bands, and we put the word out there that we were going to do this. And yeah, they just came back and we met up with them, and they were well up for it, and yeah, we just kind of went from there really. Yeah, we've kind of got quite a long list of like bands who I'm proud to say that we've worked with. So.
Never slept on the people never met. Now because that they haven't seen yet. Like bands that pay, they went to tours, so cheating themselves and cheating the floors. Never slept on the people never met. An album cover that they haven't seen yet.
I wanted to touch on your own musical taste, because what I like to do normally, if I'm talking to an artist, I would talk to them about how they got into music and who introduced them to music. What I'd like to do with you is, can you remember your first beer listening to a record or seeing a gig? And if you remember what it was.
Well, I remember like trying to be discerning about beer when I was like, I think I was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
And we were going to Reading Festival. And
is that when it was Carling Reading Festival?
Yeah, it was I think that was Carling Reading Festival till fairly recently. And we basically bought all of the cheap lager that you could buy, or we bought one can of each. We were like, which one of these beers tastes okay at room temperature? So, and I think
you need to know when you crack them open in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I'm not going to have any cold beers. So yeah, I remember doing that when I was really young. But for me, I mean, it's a bit of a cheesy cliche one, but Sierra Nevada Pale, like when you could first get that in the UK, probably about 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a big deal for me. I just remember thinking, this is a game changer. And kind of that journey of kind of hops and stuff that people go down. Yeah, there was other beers that you could kind of get, like early days you could get Dogfish Head in the UK a little bit. Now you can't really. And that was a big brewery that affected me when I was first kind of learning about beers. But I mean, you know, I don't want to talk about BrewDog really.
Well, there's a question.
Okay.
So.
We're actually there's members of the BrewDog bar Soho in the brewery at the moment, because we're brewing a collaboration beer with them at the moment today. And for all of the positive and negative things that you can say about them, being able to get like a crazy hoppy beer from a supermarket, and that was 10 years. That was 10 years ago. I think that was 2007, 2008. They just started. They got a big supermarket contract right out of the gate, and I think it really made it accessible to people. You know, you could just go. I was in the supermarket and I was like, "Wow, punk! Well, I like punk.
Yeah.
What's this?
Yeah.
You know, in the beer aisle, and the proper name, inverted commas, proper name for the 500 ml. You know, I don't want to be mean. Old man kind of ales. They're called premium bottled ales, and you know, you kind of have those like Fusty, Ferret, and Old Speckled Hen and those ones, and I always thought they were all right, like those. There was breweries who were kind of pushing the envelope a bit before BrewDog, kind of like Thornbridge, Titanic Brewery in the Midlands, and I'm not really answering the fucking questions, am I?
Well, you're clearly going on your own path, so
This is rubbish. I'm a rubbish guest.
Not at all.
I'm just trying to think about my journey, I guess.
Well, you said that you were in a ska band, and a
Yeah.
beer that is associated with ska and reggae is obviously Red Stripe. Is something that kind of you think of a beer that goes with that musical genre. It's that. What got you into ska? That was my tedious link, by the way.
Yeah,
So
nice.
you were in a ska band. I mean, was that your first love? Is that your first introduction to the idea of like punk ska? Was it like the Less Than Jakes and the Real Big Fish?
Yeah. I mean, you probably would know better than me, but I'm still trying to find out the mystery of why people don't like ska punk. Why it's got like a negative thing attached to it. I mean,
because no one's got a sense of humour. It's the way that I see it. I see like, if you're going to go to a Real Big Fish fan and you're looking for like the most meaningful music, then go somewhere else. You're not going to get it. But if you just want a fun time, then go watch a Real Big Fish gig. Like, I've watched them too many times to remember. I probably know their playlist better than most. But every time I go there, I come out smiling. It's a laugh.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I can remember that one probably even clearer than the beer stuff. Is I think I was about 14, 15. Goldfinger had Superman on, Tony Hawk's, and beer. I think it was beer. Real Big Fish was on FIFA 96.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is this?
And Offspring was on Taxi Driver.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you go to school and talk to Less Than Jake, and then I just went down that road really, but then I really got into kind of UK ska punk, so bands like Lightyear, Jesse James, a bit later like Adequate 7, bands like that, and
Cap Down ever in there? Because Reading
Cap
for
Down
me
for sure
is like
absolutely
Cap Down Central. Whenever Cap Down played Reading Festival, you guarantee it's going to fucking go off.
I mean, Cap Down, I'm really pleased to include in Signature Brew drinkers. They're well into our beers, which is still a bit surreal for me. Captain Everything. Like I was into like kind of household name sort of scene and stuff, and then I was in a kind of ska punk band in my hometown.
What were they called?
The first one I was in was called 5 Quid Short.
Yeah.
Played trumpet, and we didn't really get past our kind of local area. And then after that, I joined another band called Grown at Home.
Okay.
Who we had like the same booking agent as some of those bands I just mentioned, and we started doing proper tours, and we went on tour with Howard's Alias, and that was our first kind of UK tour. And then we went round, we did Voodoo Glow Skulls and American bands. We went on tour with RX Bandits. RX Bandits are an amazing band as well. And did that sort of for quite a few years.
So who introduced that kind of music to you? Was it something you found yourself, or was it?
It was literally like, I remember when I first joined a band. I was 15, and I was working on my dad had like a sandwich shop, and I was working on this stall in our kind of shopping centre, selling sandwiches.
Where was that? I'm
from Stafford.
Stafford, okay, yeah.
And and I saw a guy with a Less Than Jake t-shirt on, and I was just started chatting to him. And they were like, "Yeah, we're in a band." It was like a fucking TV show. The whole thing was like a sitcom type thing, and they were like, "Yeah, we're in a band too. We're looking for." And I was like, "I can play the trumpet," and then just kind of managed to get in the blag in the band, and just went from there really.
So was you like classically trained as a trumpet player?
To a point, I think, and then I'd kind of lapsed a little bit. But I mean, now you're like 2 years and 3 years seem like not very long, but from having stopped playing the trumpet to 13 to 15,
Yeah.
that seemed quite a long time when I was 15. But yeah, I mean, I still would not claim to be any good. I play trombone now, but
okay.
I swapped over when there was too many trumpet players around.
I've always been intrigued. A trumpet player, when they're playing in a band, usually at the side, and you can't come in until your part's there, but you gotta like dance around.
Yeah.
Like you need to get into it, and especially if you've heard that song quite a few times. Did you ever like dance to different music in your head, going, "I'm not here"?
Absolutely not. No, you just kind of you watch bands, Big D and the Kids Table, like you're talking about like don't know where serious music is. I guess that's why people don't like ska punk. But bands like the heavier stuff, kind of heavier end of ska, like Big D and the Kids Table, like other horn players are getting involved, doing backing vocals, and you just kind of you're just part of it, part of the whole band.
So did you smash out the vocals? Are you a vocalist?
That had my moments, yeah. Definitely.
I'm not going to make you sing anything.
No, please. Links available at the end of the.
So, am I right in saying you started your own label as well for a while?
Yeah, we had me and the drummer from the band I was in Grown at Home, a guy called Bob Barrett. We had a record label called Cash for Pigs Records, and we just set it up to release our own music, and then we released a few other bands back in the day, but nothing kind of really came of it. But it was it was fun to kind of learn the ropes of how to put music out and how to kind of create a record, and it was kind of like a bedroom project really. But yeah.
But did you get any of that education bring its way into the brewing? Because obviously you know what you're looking for like if you go and see so say if you go to a bar and you enjoy beer and you like the taste, same if you go to a gig and you see a band and you go, I like that sound, I like that mix. Is that something I might be putting words in your mouth and trying to push the link a bit too much?
I guess the bits that are relevant are the idea that you've actually got to kind of create something and release it and get it in front of somebody. So the bit where you're sort of choosing the band bit would be kind of creating the beer, and you're kind of creating something. I think when labels put out records, it's a bit like a collaboration. Depends on obviously the different people involved, but it's a bit like if you put out our album on Fat Wreck, Fat Mike's going to have some sort of say and involvement in the record with you, and there's sort of a collaboration in that way. So kind of tenuous, I suppose, but view it a bit like that. So we've got a band, we get a band in here, and we're kind of creating some beers, and we've got an idea of how we want it to go and how we think it should work, and they bring their ideas, and kind of us having the kind of more experience of releasing beers than a random band would. We kind of guide them with that process. But I guess that's the similarity there. But no, I've not done that one before. That's good.
Well, let's talk about the bands who have been part of Signature Brew and who you've worked with.
Sure.
I have to read it because you've got quite a few. But the bands that I'm interested in are the ones that actually a lot of your bands that you worked with could easily sit in this podcast. So like Frank Turner is someone who's already had a part in this podcast. Slaves, Skints, Millencolin, Heck, Lightyear, and my local band Enter Shikari, just down the road in St Albans. Harpenden. Just to name a few. So how is that you working with the record labels, or is that bands approaching you and going, hey, I've seen what you've done with these other bands, how can we get involved?
Every single time we've created one, it's almost been a different journey each time of how it's came around. So I think Enter Shikari, for example, came through, I think it was like the guy who was making that merch at the time, and we just had a mutual contacts, and then we just ended up meeting them and became good friends with them, and just went from there and created the beer. I'm trying to remember Frank Turner. Yeah, kind of always starts with like a sit down and chat and then go from there, really.
Did
So
Frank tell you what his favourite beer was, by the way? I found out on my podcast.
I can't remember. He probably
It's a
did.
Coors Light.
Oh right, yeah, he's regressed. I mean, he's a big whiskey guy,
Yeah.
and we thought we were going to go down that road, but we actually created. I mean, that was really early days for us. That was in 2012, and I would love to. We're 7 years. We've been going 7 years in a couple of weeks, and I've always wanted to do like a project where we bring loads of the beers back, and the beer we created with Frank Turner was actually quite an interesting style. It was a wheat beer. It's the proper name style is Crystal Weissen, so it's like a clear wheat beer.
Yeah.
And that's like a really quite an unusual style. And like lots of people, wheat beer is a bit of a kind of Marmite thing for a lot of people. But I'm a massive wheat beer fan, and I think it's massively underrepresented in the UK beer scene because who knows why. And it was cool that we tried to do that. Anyway, I'd love to go back and revisit all these beers and just say, right, let's take all the stuff we've learned for the last 5-6 years. We're much better at brewing now than we were 5 or 6 years ago, and let's kind of reinvent these ideas.
Do you not keep like a stash of all the old beers that you've done?
Yeah. I mean, but they're horrible because they're 5-6 years old. Like now with some of our hoppier beers, we don't. The best before date is like 3-4 months. Because we want them to be drunk fresh.
Yeah.
We want people to experience them when they're at their peak. And a lot of the beers that we've made with bands tend to be kind of more lower ABV, kind of paler beers, which don't stand the test of time. We don't filter the beers. We don't do anything like that. So we don't add anything in to make them last longer. So I think I've got a bottle of. I'll probably find one for you, but I've probably got a bottle of Frank Turner Believe somewhere around, and. I wouldn't want to open it.
So how much input did the guys actually have then?
Yeah,
in
tons.
The beer?
Yeah. Every time we've created a beer with a band or a single artist, I've kind of had in my head like we'll cut this out. Think of the word. Ideas going in.
Oh, preempted ideas.
Yeah, like kind of. Yeah, I don't know if that's the word. I've got
a word.
It's I've already got an idea of what I think it's going to be.
Yeah,
and it's never that. If you know what I mean. So
do you go though by sound? So like say Heck for instance are quite a heavy band. Do you go okay? Let's go for like a stout or something like that? And we have like the Skints who are more of a ska reggae band. You're like let's go something summery, fruity.
Yeah, I mean, but you might be saying all that stuff now because you already know what we did.
I literally know, I don't know what you did with Heck. I kind of know what you did with the Skints.
Yeah, kind of, but it's kind of you kind of guessing about what you think they will like. And what you think that how much they care about what their fans will like and how much it fits with their whole thing and I'm always been surprised. It's been really really good.
Has anyone come up to you and go, I like seafood? I want an oyster beer.
Heck wanted to do one with like gravy in it. They were like, can we use beef stock? And I was like, it would be a first.
Have you done like any non-alcoholic ones with bands like H2Os, like the straight edge bands? Have you thought about doing like a
it's quite hard to make non-alcoholic beer that tastes nice. You need a bit more technology than we actually have, but it's definitely come up. But it's kind of, I don't know, I think the market for it sounds really corporate. The amount of people that would want it is quite small.
Yeah.
For what we're doing at this, for the size of what we are, of what we're doing, we have to focus on stuff that we're kind of good at. So I definitely would love to do it. We're doing a 3% beer tomorrow, with the famous punk band Hospital Records, for part of their. They've got a big festival coming up in September, and that's like a really call it table beer, so low ABV.
I mean, you've done a lot with festivals. Cause you went to Manchester Punk Festival recently.
Yeah.
You did SlamDunk, Tan Gent. I don't know if you did 2000 Trees.
Yeah, we did as well.
So what's your connection? How come you got involved with those festivals? Is it like, well, we're already known for the band, so why aren't we getting involved with the people who put on bands?
Yeah, I mean, it's just part of our mission. Is like getting great beer in front of people who are having a great time with some music, and it just makes total sense. I mean, festivals are often some of the worst places for. I mean, Reading and Leeds.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrible even now, because those deals are so big, so much money. The big brands want your good time to be associated with their thing. I think it's Tuborg at the moment for Reading and Leeds, but yeah. So it just makes total sense, and people are crying out for it. The first time we did SlamDunk was last year, 2017, and yeah, people. I mean, this is not an exaggeration. This is not a lie. But I saw people walk up to our bar with a pint of lager they bought from, I can't remember actually what lager it was, but throwing it on the ground and just being like, yes, and coming up to our bar and buying a pint of roadie or a pint of backstage and being like, oh, I'm so happy that you guys are here. So that kind of reaction just spurs us on to go and try and find more places where we can do that. So. And
at that point, are you behind the bar, or are you more like manage it, or are you just getting pissed in the backstage area?
All of the above. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely get. I think all the festivals you just mentioned, I ended up working a little bit behind the bars and setting it up, and I know how to build a bar and make the beer come out of the taps and all that sort of stuff. But also, we did loads of cool stuff at some of those festivals as well, where I would get involved, and we, myself and John and some of the guys, we be chatting to bands and making content and making videos and stuff. So. Yeah. Just try and get involved with that, but also just try and have fun as well. Go see some bands.
When I was just a skinny lad on holiday by the sea, I met a girl in a rancid shirt, the tapes he gave to me, with a black flag for 4 years in the mind of dread discography, and punk rock saved my life. Going down the red eye back in 1998, hanging out with household names and staying out too late. This angry adolescent found an outlet for his hate, and punk rock saved my life. The vision wasn't perfect and we knew it all along. We dressed like fucking idiots and got our backs so wrong, but everyone is sneezy and extremist when they're young. Fucking with your parents makes you grow up big and strong.
Said John, and I know John used to work at Kerrang.
Yes.
So how did you get someone who was working in a music magazine, and how did you sell the idea of come work with us in beer and create our content? Because you've got a strong identity in your marketing with your labeling of your beers, with the backstage on the cans, and your videos are very cool and slick, and your website looks good as a website. I mean, how
he'd love to hear all this.
How much is that in the back of your mind, and why did you go to John then? Were you really wanted someone who's involved in music?
Well, I mean, John has been involved in the brewery since the very beginning, really, and he's just one of my best mates. So that's I couldn't make it sound like I really tried and poached him and recruited him, but he's just had a hand in what we've been doing since the very start, and he's kind of seen it go from nothing to where it is now. It was just kind of one of my mates who I chatted to about it when we started. We lived together for a few years, so he was kind of getting front row seats about what we were doing. And also he worked so after Kerrang he worked did all the socials for Star Wars.
Nice.
So that's what he's been doing for the last few years. But yeah, he's still involved in Kerrang, still writes for them and stuff. And yeah, he's just perfect person to have involved. Kind of he understands both sides of it and understands really deeply what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And he's part of that. So
here we go. Here's a magazine question for you. If you were gonna do a beer for any punk band, ska, hardcore, which band would be the one that you would go, I want to do a beer for them? And what would that beer be?
Wow, okay. Straight in there. I should have a pre-prepared.
I would have thought you even asked this question before, so I thought you
I'm really rubbish at this because the first time someone ever asked me that, it happened. So
who was that then?
So it was we were what band? I think it was we just started out. We just did a beer. We'd done. I think the third beer we were done was with Craig Finn from the Hold Steady.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's a great guy and amazing musician. I love the Hold Steady. I love all of his solo stuff. And after that came out, I don't know. I think because we were the first ones to really do band beers, collaborations, the press that we got at the beginning was mental. So like we were in Rolling Stone, and I got interviewed like for MTV, like their website, and that was one of the questions. And I was like, oh, I'd love to work with Mastodon. I was just kind of super into Mastodon at that point, and we were talking about who would be great band to work with, and then that they heard that their management, and then it happened. So
I can't promise that will happen.
Yeah.
With whatever band you're about to say now.
I don't. One of the things that I'm trying really hard to do is that obviously me and John are like best mates, and Tom's one of my best mates, and he's my cousin. Lots of the people here, we all kind of listen to quite similar music.
Yeah.
You know, Tim, who I'll introduce you to shortly, is one of the brewers here. Enter Shikari are his favourite band of all time.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying hard to do is kind of reach out a little bit outside. We could just spend our whole time doing punk bands, you know what I mean? And I feel like doing a beer with like Millencolin, one of my favourite punk bands ever, and doing a beer with them, hanging out with them, releasing a beer with them, and that was one of the most surreal processes ever. I'm trying hard to kind of make sure that it's diverse enough so that the people on the other end, we're not just this brewery that just works with all bands that we like.
Yeah.
I know I'm trying to dodge the question again.
No. So would you work with like grime? Is that like a grime artist, something high in your opinion? Or?
So earlier, towards the end of last year, sort of October, November last year, we created a beer with Rodney P.
Yeah.
Who's like super seminal hip hop artist, super influential. Any UK hip hop person, fucking Stormzy to Tiny Temper, any of these guys will know who he is because he was in the first ever kind of hip hop group called London Posse, and they toured in the UK with NWA and that kind of era. And he's such a iconic figure. You know, we've got him in here mashing in. He's got his fancy shoes on, and he's just working around the brewery for a whole day. And it's and that was great because that allows us to get in front of new people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess so. And just last week we announced we're doing a beer with Alt J, who super cool. They've won the Mercury Prize, and I
like indie darlings, aren't they?
Yeah. And so we're just trying not to make it so it's just punk. You know what I mean? But yeah, to answer your question,
is that because BrewDog might sue you?
I mean, I one of my old clients in my old job was Pill, so got to meet John Lydon a few times, and I've always thought about like just contacting him. I mean, he didn't. Whenever I talked to him, he didn't seem to be interested too much.
Not butter, that's why.
Yeah, he's selling butter. Yeah. But yeah, I just wonder if he made a beer with us and we called it Punk IPA, what would happen? I mean, we haven't got the lawyers.
I was going to say, the BrewDog are definitely lawyered up, ready for that.
But yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of crazy that, I don't know if you remember, there was that open letter to BrewDog, and like Slaves signed it, and lots of bands signed it saying you can't copyright the word punk. Yeah. And it just seemed to have no impact. Like, I was like, fucking hell, this is big.
Yeah.
And I was interested to see what would happen, and what happened was nothing. BrewDog have got 1 million PRs and a million lawyers. I'd love to know. I'd love to ask someone like you to ask them what their favourite punk bands are.
Well, they're on my list. I've approached BrewDog a couple of times, and I've never got back to me. Also, I'm worried because it's called Punks and Pubs. I'm thinking they might sue me as well. But they're definitely on my list because I had a question which basically asked you about BrewDog, because they are also trying to, like you said, their brand is built essentially on the word punk. Punk was the thing that kind of everyone associated with BrewDog, with Punk IPA, and now they've got huge. They're massive now. And with their equity scheme, like they're growing and growing and growing. They're about to go and get a brewery in America. But at what point does a brewery stop becoming a microbrewery? Like, at what point do they stop becoming a craft brewery? Because surely now they are part of the... They're called Deloitte's, is that the name of the guys who make Stella and Budweiser and like those kind of massive brand beers? Surely BrewDog now are like eating at their heels. Not Budweiser, because obviously they're massive, but they surely can't now be seen as a a craft beer company? Because craft means small. It means local. It means no. You looked at me very confused.
I know. I'm looking at you confused because I'm now about to have to defend BrewDog. I think you mean Diageo is the so they own lots of brands, including Guinness. Budweiser is owned by a company called AB InBev, and I think that the BrewDog made a small sort of hole for themselves. In the scheme of the world beer thing, they're tiny. They're still tiny, and they still fit into the American definition of what craft beer is. So in the UK, we don't have a set definition of what is craft and what isn't. But in America, they have. You make above a certain amount of litres per year, you're not craft. That's a fact, and you can't be part of the club. And it's a bit more serious over there about what is and what isn't, because the big companies are so dominated, whereas the UK scene is more kind of fragmented. So it's definitely dominated by the AB InBevs and the Coors of the world, but then it's also got companies like Fuller's, who are, I think they're a publicly listed company, but still owned on the board of, on the CEO or whatever on the board are people from the family, and there's 10 of those around the UK that own loads of pubs in a little area, and they're called like family brewers. So, and they've got rich heritage, and it's really hard to point at them and go, "Oh, you're an evil corporation," even though some of them do dodgy things, whatever. So it's kind of a bit more diverse in the UK, and how BrewDog sort of fit into it is kind of up for debate, really. How I sort of see them is that they've made a big point about being like, fuck the big guy, and that's because that's what they've taken. Punk is against the establishment, and I think that they've sort of running up against it now, where they've become the establishment.
They've become Green Day.
Yeah, and that's not a bad place to be, and do you like their early hits and some of the early stuff they did? I mean, I don't know, but I think it's difficult for them. But they're just going in one direction, and they're going so fast. And fair play to them. Like I say, I disagree with some of the stuff that they've done, and I think some of the stuff they've done is good, and I think lots of their beers are good, are really good. I've had all kinds of beers from them, but overall, I think they can be credited with pushing up the quality of craft beer, and kind of being the first ones to introduce American ideas and kind of concepts that were already in action in America, bringing them to the UK. That's the genius of what they did, and that allowed everyone else to kind of toe on behind it. But there was tons of innovation and interesting stuff happening in the UK when they were doing that. But I think they were just the ones that kind of got the imagination of the press, and they're in the press all the time now. Even people slagging them off, they're still in the press. Yeah, and it's that's been their kind of operating, their MO for the whole time, is just do outrageous stuff to get people to talk about them, back it up with great beer. That's their model, and I think using the word punk, is that punk? I don't know.
I'm just trying to have a good time. Wow, whoa, kocha, bocha, I am not. I'm just trying to feel them good vibrations. I said, kocha, bocha, I am not. I'm just trying to have a good time. Wow, whoa, kocha, bocha, I am not. I'm just trying to feel them good vibrations. When you come to the end of your tether, I'll get your head all up no matter what the weather. See the kind of shoot you down, we all stand firmly on the ground. And when we're dealing with these complicated figures, up on the presence to level, but that the sticker. But what they don't know is that the figures are on the trigger, and we aiming to shoot them down. Yes, we aiming to shoot them down. I said, kocha, kocha, I am not. I'm just trying to have a good time. Wow, whoa, kocha, kocha, I am not. I'm just trying to feel the good vibrations.
Let's get away from them and talk more about Signature Brew. You guys did a zine recently.
Yes.
How has that been received? And because your first issue, you focused it on punk, didn't you?
Yeah.
It was all about punk. So why wasn't I invited? And why did you go? Like, I know you said that everyone here is a punk fan, but why did you go punk as your go-to?
We wanted to release it at Manchester Punk Festival.
Oh, okay.
And kind of we had some content that we could create with bands that we'd work with, and it seemed like a really sensible place to put it out. So that was kind of the idea behind it. And we were promoting a beer at the time that we just released the beer with Lightyear. So yeah, it made loads of sense. And it was so popular, we still haven't got around to making issue 2 yet. But I think we're definitely going to do it. But there's always tons of stuff happening. But yeah, it was really well received, and I just learned the whole time about the world of zines. People are super into zines.
That's my question. Like, did you never read them when you were growing up? Was it not something that was around you?
Yeah, kind of. Like, Fracture back in the day, and like skate magazines and stuff. But Big Cheese.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I can remember sort of seeing zines around, and when I was younger, and reading them. But yeah, I haven't. To me, it's not been a thing that's been in my life for loads of years, and people so into the idea of physical thing, which is one of the reasons I think people have got so into craft beer, because it's just a physical fucking thing that.
But
people...
each can now is like a piece of art. Like the styles and the graphics that are on there are just beautiful, and some of them. And like sometimes I don't even look at the beer; I just buy it because I like the can.
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
Is that something that you're very aware of as well? Like, because I know you guys have done some. You don't just stick like you're. Is it called like? I'm about to use your beer name as a Signature Brew, but is that what you would call the like your backstages and?
So that's kind of like the core range.
Core range.
So we do have a proper name for it, and they're they've got 4 beers that are always available. Roadie, Studio Pilsner, Backstage IPA, and Nightliner, and they've all got kind of their own identities and their own stories and their own reasons for being. And then we've got special guests, which are the 440ml foil topped seasonal beers. And then we have main support, which is beer. We have a chart somewhere, I can show it to you. Beers that kind of come in and out throughout the year, that a bit more interesting ones, and then we have the collaborations as well.
I know you need to get back to work, so you should be working. But what is for the future? Like, are there bands that you talk to now about you going 2019? We want to work with free bands, or 2019 we want to maybe do your own festival. I don't know. Like, what plans do you long term?
Hopefully, when this comes out, we've got a crowdfunding campaign that's about to launch in 2.5 weeks. We're going to move to a new site, which is bigger than all of our kind of combined units, and they're in one place, which makes it easier. Hopefully going to open a couple of bars. That should be open by December, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Do you know what venue? Are you just going to stay local in London?
Yeah, 2 places in London.
Yep.
Hopefully. And yeah, we're going to hopefully do a redesign as well. So that should launch sort of start of next year. And in terms of bands for next year, we're kind of still looking and still trying to think about what would be good and who are the right people for us to work with. Lots of things going on.
Perfect. Well, thanks for your time, Sam, and
no worries.
Thanks for doing this, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah,
cheers, man.
Cool. Cheers, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you to Sam for taking the time to talk to me, and like I said in the intro, I spoke about how you, the listener, could actively get involved in the continuing rise of Signature Brew. Sam and Tom are looking for investment to move to a new state-of-the-art brew house so they can treble their capacity, as well as open up 2 new tap rooms to showcase their beers and put on live shows. To do that, they need money, obviously, and they have set up a CrowdCube page where you, the listener, can invest as little as £10 or as big as £250,000 if you happen to have that in your back pocket into Signature Brew's long-term venture. For more information, click the link in the description part of this podcast or go to the Punks in Pubs socials on Insta, Twitter and Facebook at Punks in Pubs, or merely go to the Signature Brew website, which is signaturebrew.co.uk. If you're not ready for the world of investment, then just go buy their beer and help them that way. Thank you to Steve Burke, as always, for audio assistance. Steve has created a fantastic video for our 1-year birthday, so keep your eyes peeled to our socials at Punks and Pubs for that. Please go rate and review. I see that no one did that this week on the iTunes podcast site, so shame on you. You can make up for that by going to rate and review right now, and also send a WhatsApp message to 5 of your friends that says, "Hey mate, I think you'll love this. You can thank me later." Insert your name. Obviously not me, you're writing the message. But before I completely leave you for this week, let me introduce you to the band playing out this week's pod. They are called Watashi wa Dance Party. They hail from San Diego, so check them out if you live in that area. This track is called Really Over from their new EP, Skate Pop Suicide. That's it from me. If you go into a punk show and you see someone fall down, you pick them right back up. Until next time, bye-bye.
I'm sorry I hurt you. And I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's not like I meant to, 'cause we never meant nothing. When you see the pictures, you know that it's really